I don't know if it can. I don't mean to complain.
And,
I don't think YouTube's that bad.
well, YouTube is bad as it's going to get because
Just
it
YouTube
is what
being
it is.
YouTube.
Yes,
Yeah, look,
and
I have a love-hate relationship with YouTube.
I mean, I feel the same way about Twitter before
I
Elon Musk
Oh
bought
yeah.
it.
yeah I don't want to say anything against Auntie Susan because Brilliant will get me banned
Again.
again.
I like how Landon's been in the most trouble with YouTube than any of us here today.
Yeah, well, that's the way.
The cookie crumbles.
Uh, yes, although I was hoping for more. I prefer more of the soft chocolate chip than the crumbly ones.
Ooh, I do
Nice.
enjoy
Unless,
soft.
unless it's a biscotti dipped in cafe, then
Mmm. Mmm. Why do you always tease me, Landon?
because you react so well.
Oh,
Got you there.
alright. Insert fan fiction here. Oh man, alright, you
Like there
guys.
wasn't already plenty of fan fiction.
By the way, are these flames fossil fuel generated?
No, I'm pretty sure that's just the corpses of all the reputations I've burned along the way of my YouTube career.
They could be burned fossil. Oh, what, we're starting?
Oh, hey everybody, welcome back to Debate Hub. I am your host, Chesh, the master debater. With me, I have Landon and Dapper, and today we're going to talk about the conspiracy of fossil fuels. I hope you guys are ready. Dapper, Landon,
Yes,
how are you
fossil fuels
guys?
are a conspiracy.
They are. That's what I
Oh,
Yes.
learned.
I'm doing all right. It's a nice
Uh,
chilly-ish. What is it? Wednesday? I don't even know anymore.
It is Wednesday. How you
So,
feeling after
so,
yesterday,
so
you guys?
Oh my goodness. You say yesterday, like it hasn't been like the past 4 days.
That's
uh,
true.
it, I do recommend people check out um, um, the event show number 100. It was a rather well, it was 100% there. I recommend you watch it, click the like button, subscribe, all that sort of thing.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was a
and
blast. And these two were there.
congratulations to Dapper
Thank
for
you.
hitting 9,000.
Woo!
He's
Yes,
almost
over
at those
9,000.
double digits, man.
Yep.
Good job.
I'm
Good for
over
you.
9,000 now. You were telling me it might fluctuate, and it's like by the time you said that it was like 9,018. It's around 9,050 something now. So
I mean, that's good. That's good that you didn't like
yeah,
announce it too early.
I don't think it's going back under 9,000 anytime soon.
Good. Good for you.
Good for
Um,
you.
what's everybody drinking tonight so we know for our drinking game?
Rum and Coke.
Rum and Coke. What do you got, Landon?
Well, I'm going to be starting off. I'm going to attempt to see if I can teetotal through that. I know that that's not grain protection. So I have in my Pele mug a latte that I made. You can see a little bit of it down there that I made here at home. I do have some other tea, Bengal spice tea, but if this gets really dumpster fire-ish, I might have to spice it up. So,
And I do
it's
believe both of
going to be a
our
sane argument, or
both of our guests today, if I'm not mistaken, both of our drinking buddies today are going into this blind. I'm the only one who has watched it thus far. And personally, I'm a little
Yes.
bit confused to the point that I'm not sure what our drinking rules should be. So we have, I put the rules that we got so far down below, which is citation needed, big dumb, and if I
Hmm.
remember correctly, there should be two other rules. But let me just double check. Let me just reopen this. Boop. There we go. Blind. I'm the
what
only.
about what
Shut up,
about
me.
had what?
Oh,
What
Landon
my
going Hulk mode, and we need to pick our super chat for today.
I think
is
we
it
actually
also
ended up adding either of us going a Hulk mode.
Yes. Okay. We'll
yes?
say Dapper or Landon going Hulk mode.
And do they crack jokes that might or may not land?
Not really.
Good
This
question.
kind of is a little bit more of a TED talk. So it is only 15 minutes long. So it's not.
Yeah,
It doesn't really. If we catch one, we can definitely drink.
yeah. I'm had the last of. I made some vegetarian stuffing and cranberry stuff. It's actually very cheap right now because everyone is sick of it from U.S. Thanksgiving. So it actually is quite a easy way to.
Oh,
Nice.
Yes.
My
very
drink
nice.
for tonight is I was gifted this for Christmas, and I was told nobody else who got the drink actually liked it. So we're gonna see if I'm the only one who actually liked it. It is Whitewater Brewing Company. It is Beaver Tails, and it is a hazelnut chocolate stout.
4.6.
Yeah, so we'll see
Sweet
if
and nutty.
this. Yeah, sweet
That's
and nutty.
apt.
I
Like-
like my
like
men
I said-
like I like my beer, sweet and nutty.
Sounds like a Nutella beer is what it sounds like.
It sounds like it's supposed to be drank like as a dessert beer with a dessert. So like
Yeah.
Beaver Tails, if anybody's unfamiliar with what Beaver Tail is, it's a pastry that's like it gets pastry and sugar. That's about it. So I think you might be supposed to be drinking this with like a Beaver Tail pastry. So who knows? All right, are you
We'll
guys
find
ready to find out whether or not fossil fuels are fake?
So is
Oh,
Beaver
but we're gonna
Tails
do
a
it anyway.
Canadian pastry or is that more universal?
Oh, sorry, what?
Is Beaver Tail a Canadian pastry
Yes.
or is that more universal?
Yeah, it's mostly a Canadian pastry. I don't know how much other places sell
Yeah.
beaver tails.
So,
Yeah, I've never
so
seen it
that
in
person
the
who said it
US.
was a euphemism, you're wrong.
Oh, it is also a euphemism. It is that is also that. Why not both? Why not both?
Yeah.
So we're looking at a Magnetic Reversal News, who is the person who made this video. It does come off as a TED Talk, and I will give credit where credit is due. There are citations down here. So if some of our citation needed, there might actually be citations in here. The question is are they actually going to link together what is the citation? Like what citation goes with what?
Yes. And is the citation just going to be a bunch of unsubstantiated claims that themselves need citations? Because that also happens sometimes.
Yes, that may well be the case. And I think we'll probably also just drink if they get something just patently so incorrect that anybody should know that this is wrong without too much work. All right. You guys ready?
Sure.
As ready as I'm going to be.
All right, 3, 2, 1.
What are fossil fuels? And are they
That's
really
easy.
made from fossils?
What are
Yes.
fossil fuels?
So fossil fuels are hydrocarbons that are themselves produced from the remains of living organisms, primarily plants and algae, right? So they're called fossil fuels because they are the remains of ancient organisms. They're not fossils in the sense that you might think of, like that you would go to see at a museum. So you're not going to put on display at a museum like a bunch of oil sludge. But technically, a fossil is any remains or evidence of an ancient organism, and there's usually a 10,000-year time limit given on that. So if it's more than 10,000 years old, it's a fossil. If it's less, it's technically not a fossil. But because under virtually every model of oil formation, it takes more than 10,000 years to squish a bunch of logs into like black sludge or natural gas, these are going to be fossils. And so what actually ends up happening is all the relatively complex organic molecules start to break down into more stable but simpler forms. Because, things like proteins are relatively stable on the time frame of tens of thousands of years in many cases, but over the course of millions of years, they're not very stable. Whereas things like benzene rings are incredibly stable and effectively have an indefinite shelf life. So you get relatively simple hydrocarbons that form hydrocarbon chains and rings and whatnot in fossil fuel deposits.
And those those basically you're from a physics point of view, it's entropy, right? That you have complex
essentially
systems that are unable to maintain their higher order state and degrade.
Over time.
Going to things of less energy. So those benzene rings, hydrocarbon things are a lower energy state than the complex molecule that might have been created by a plant or a critter.
I got
Exactly. In this case,
sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was going to say it's almost all plants and algae. I say plant and algae because technically algae aren't in the kingdom Plantae, but whatever.
Oh, I learned something
So
today.
it's almost all photosynthetic organisms, and that's for a number of reasons. One of the biggest ones of which is that they are the largest source of biomass overall on the surface of the Earth. Like if you take a kilogram of random sampling of biomatter from the surface of the Earth, it's almost all going to be photosynthetic organism.
I forgot to show off today. I'm wearing my drinking shirt because I have a drinking shirt for this.
Woohoo! Okay. It
Very
says
nice.
drink. What does it say again?
It says that's what I do. I drink and I know things. I don't know things. The shirt is a lie. All I do is drink.
I need that shirt.
That's what these guys are here. All right, I'm gonna hit play on this and see where we go. Because they haven't actually explained anything yet. They just asked us a question and then you aptly both answered it. So let's see what their answer is. Surely it will be the same as what you said.
Obviously.
Well, I'm a geologist. More specifically, a stratigrapher and paleontologist.
What's a stratigrapher?
So stratigraphers go into geological settings and they will take a look at what layering is there and figure out which layers form strata versus laminae. They will do things like try to figure out if they can horizontally correlate the strata that they're seeing with similar strata found elsewhere in the world so they can get a sense of where in the geological timescale they are. It's actually a really important part of geology if you want to then later explore that for mineral or fossil fuel stuff. You need to get a really good stratigraphic map is the kind of thing that they produce. So that's what a stratigrapher is.
Nice.
And I taught at the graduate level at university. And we were taught that these fuels come from fossils. Now, there is no evidence in the field that there is any oil or gas or methane around locations where there are fossils.
Oh, wait a minute. So they're making this claim, but isn't the case that there are places where fossil, decaying matter can become petroleum products, but not always, right?
It sounds to me
Yeah,
like they're
so-
saying that oil doesn't come from fossils.
So there are fossil-bearing or fossil-forming locations that do not produce fossil fuels but still produce fossils, right? So, for instance,
Right.
if you're in an area like much of modern Florida is currently producing muck that's sufficiently limey that it will eventually lithify into limestone, you're not going to find fossil fuels there most likely.
So do we call
But
that?
on the other hand,
Would we call that one?
sorry.
I think we would call this one drink at this point, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, we'll call that. That's a big dump.
Because Glavisi is saying, hey, I have a fossil, there's no fossil fuel around it, therefore this idea is bunk.
Right.
I
Right.
don't think that.
Now, on the other hand, I can point to places that are forming fossils where they will form fossil fuels if we let them last long enough. For instance, peat bogs. Peat bogs are pre-coal. Peat eventually, if it's compactified enough, will turn into first relatively low-quality coal, and then eventually it'll turn into the various high-purity coals that have relatively lower amounts of smoke. Now, I say that, and don't get me wrong, all coal is extremely dirty. It's just some of it is way, way worse than some of the other stuff.
Yes, some is more dirty than others.
Right.
I
And
mean, you
burning
could
peat
say
is
that
even
about a
more
lot of
dirty.
people.
Well,
Go on, yes.
We're resisting.
We lost Dapper. Dapper?
no, I'm still here.
Oh, okay.
I'm still
okay.
here.
I thought we lost you.
We're just
already.
resisting. We're just resisting. We're trying
No.
not to light the
No,
fossil fuels.
I'm giving examples of like two different locations fossils are forming today.
Oh, yes.
One with fossil fuel, one without. That's all I had.
Oh, okay, okay.
Now, sometimes there are fossils above and below coal measures or within coal, but the majority of fossils have no oil associated with it. So, just in general terms, it makes little sense that these fuels come from fossils.
Yeah, there it is.
No.
Like, does that
I
count
think
as a
so.
prediction? Because that's what Landon said.
Yeah, I
Yes.
think so. And it's dumb, right? The idea to say that, okay, the majority of X is not found with Y, therefore Y is not part of X doesn't work, right? Like the majority of mammals aren't primates, so primates aren't mammals. No,
Yeah.
that's not how it works.
Now,
The majority
sorry, go
are
ahead.
odd. 2 is not odd, therefore 2 is not prime. That's the logic.
Right.
That they're
Right.
Yeah.
which is
Logic
fallacy.
that doesn't
Yeah.
work. Yeah.
Yes.
And there are lots
like
of
aggressively
examples
bad.
of quote unquote fossil fuels. And the question tonight we're going to answer is, are these fuels really from fossils, or are they being generated deep in the mantle of the earth? And an abiotic process, which is renewable and continues to happen as we speak.
So abiotic, let's define that.
So that basically means abiotic processes are processes that do not involve living organisms. So, for instance, if you want to find abiotic hydrocarbons, it's actually not that hard to do in the solar system. Titan is chock full of them. Titan, the moon of Saturn. So the question isn't really, are there abiotic processes that result in the formation of hydrocarbons? The answer is yes. It's obviously yes. We find hydrocarbons in space where there's no good evidence of life.
Yes.
We can produce hydrocarbons in labs in abiotic processes. It's not impossible. Hydrogen and carbon are both common atoms. They readily bond with each other in various ways. However, that's not the point that's being made by the abiotic carbon or abiotic oil people, right? They are trying to argue that a significant fraction of Earth's oil reserves are in fact abiotic, and that therefore we don't need to worry about things like running out of oil. Now, first of all, I would say we should probably stop worrying about running out of oil for reasons like shifting to other fuel sources.
Yeah.
Instead
Yes.
of, because, but hey, that's a different thing. So,
And in my opinion as well, we should be saving some of these oil products for things that they're particularly good at.
Yeah. Instead of just using them as a blanket, use them
plastics-
as a specialty.
Yeah.
there are certain things
and-
that plastics can do that other materials can't, and we're really not getting plastic except via fossil fuels.
Yes, and yes, you could have energy intensive things that try to build more complex, hydrocarbon chains, but it really is quite expensive and not practical. In regards to the abiotic stuff, in astronomy, we find organic compounds, things that, carbon chains out in the universe, and some of them, we found carbon chains as many as like 14 carbon length things, of carbon, hydrogen stuff out there. That does not mean that they're, as I say, that it's biological. Mars has a production of methane. There's a trace amounts of methane, and one of the things that they're trying to find out is that methane abiotic or biotic, right? One of the searches for potential life on Mars is to see, are there biological critters, Martian critters, deep in the ground where the methane is slowly leaking out, or is it some abiotic process? So we know that we can produce, and you can make methane in a lab, in a chemical lab without critters. The question I think they seem to be stating is not only is this possible, but it's the vast majority, and it's happening by stuff down deep.
We've got two predictions in the chat. We've got one from Sean that says, prediction, the person has no idea what the mantle really contains. And Al's prediction is they're going to say there's an ocean of oil under the crust that the Earth is making, like some wild, crazy libertarians sometimes say to justify the oil industry.
Yeah, I've heard that. I don't know if he's going to make that.
Yeah.
But yeah, like
Keep
the
an ear
thing
out.
is, if the claim is just some non-zero amount of hydrocarbons are produced on Earth abiotically, it's not really a significant claim. Most people would see like,
Sure.
yeah, maybe, sure, why not?
Yeah.
But that can't just be the claim that there is production of abiotic hydrocarbons on Earth. Like that's
So
not
you
a real
think
claim.
you think they're gonna have a point, but it's not gonna be relative. Like it's not relevant.
Yeah, like I fully expect to hear some actual chemical processes that can result in hydrocarbons from the Earth.
Mm-hmm.
However, I do not expect any supporting evidence that they are actually happening at scales large enough to be economically significant.
All right.
And if you can, that these organic compounds are formed out in space just by physics, right? It seems to be from the introductory stuff that they're implying that not only is this happening on Earth, but that the vast majority of our petroleum products are from this abiotic process. So let's see.
Yeah.
Let's find out.
Now, in the West, it is almost universally held that oil and gas is derived from fossils. This is not the case elsewhere, particularly among Russian and Ukrainian scientists.
Among scientists, take a drink. When you
Right.
know, non-specific. Some scientists
So
say.
it is actually the case that if you go back in the history of Soviet science journals, you actually do get a fair bit of abiotic oil like nonsense that was being peddled.
Mhm.
It's not clear to me why, although to be fair, Soviet science has a history of believing absolute nonsense things on the grounds that it would be convenient for communist regimes if those things were true.
Ah, yes.
Yeah,
So-
there were
Politics.
people operating in engineering disciplines claiming to be scientific while amplifying the current Politburo policy.
Right. Well, and the thing is, I mean, I don't blame them that much because if you try publishing against current policy, well, you might find yourself chipping through ice to take a shit, off in Siberia
Yes,
for the rest of your
yes,
life.
that is true.
But what that doesn't set us up for is saying that science from these places and times should be relied upon simply because it's been published. That's the
yeah.
reason we shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah.
Understand, just because it's published doesn't mean it's true, right?
Right.
What happens with a publication is preferably it's been peer reviewed, although that's happening. The quality of some of that is happening less and less some days. And then other papers comment on it, and people take the publication and challenge it, test it, and perhaps refute it. So when you find a paper in a journal, one of the things you want to look for is further papers that essentially explain or refute claims by the previous paper, to try to get a more accurate picture of the state of
affairs.
of the subject.
Who have
If you're
over
checking on Google
several
Scholar, sorry.
No, go
If
ahead.
you're checking on Google Scholar, a good thing to look up is it'll show you right on the search result how many citations there have been. If there have been a lot of citations, that means the paper has gained a lot of attention, and then you can check to see, has the attention been largely negative or positive? And if it's been largely positive and there's a lot of citations, you can be pretty well assured that that is a well-supported paper.
I just found out there's a side chat for this.
Nice.
Oh.
among Russian and Ukrainian
dear.
scientists who have over several generations tenaciously propounded the notion that oil and gas are abiotic, can be found deep below the surface of the earth in most parts of the world and in very large amounts. And more, the Western world is coming.
I think that's a citation needed.
Yeah, that's a citation needed.
Very large amounts. So this is what you were predicting, right? That those numbers are not going to be relevant. But we haven't got there yet, so we won't drink for that yet.
Yeah.
Side chat inception, yes.
Well, to realize that this may be the case. An abiogenic hypothesis was first proposed by Georgius Agricola in the 16th century.
Great name.
And various additional
Yep.
abiogenic hypotheses were proposed then again in the 19th century, most notably by Prussian geographer Alexander von Humboldt.
That's a good name, too.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why is this one guy's
Makes
name
me want some
God?
squid steak.
Why is this one guy's
That's a
name
good
God,
question.
and why does he look so angry? You seeing this? I'm
I,
gonna.
I, I thought
Maybe he's
I thought it was G.
maybe he's so angry because
Overmount.
he's got sinners in his hands. Get it?
Ooh.
Could be.
Sinners in the hands of an angry
Yeah.
god.
I mean,
Ah.
Mendeleev is a pretty renowned chemist.
Can we drink for
Gave us-
Dapper's joke that didn't land?
Yes.
But Mendeleev is a pretty interesting character. He did a lot of things besides the first periodic table, which isn't really what we use today, but it inspired building them.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious as to where he's going to go with this because it seems to be that, like, hey, this was proposed a couple of times throughout history and has not gotten enough traction or have the traction it should have.
I'm
Yeah,
going to
but the thing is-
suggest that he's going to appeal to authority. He's
Yeah.
all on names of scientists say, well, these scientists were thinking this, so you can't call us crackpots.
Ah,
Yeah, and the thing is, if you want to point out bad ideas that were proposed throughout history by many people, I mean, just look at phlogiston theory. Lots of people were like, oh yeah, there's this substance called
Yep.
phlogiston, and it's what fire is made of. And when you heat things up, they release the phlogiston, and it creates the fire.
Yeah.
And then,
I mean,
people found out that
yeah.
oxygen is a thing, and we were like, nope, guess that's not true.
yep.
I mean, Newton got a number of things wrong, even though he's considered one of the greatest physicists of all time. And in fact, even Newton's primary work in Principia had to be essentially bug fixed or corrected by Laplace, right? So when you read Newton's work, you're really reading Laplace, who corrected a bunch of things, filled a bunch of gaps, and fixed a bunch of
Fleshed
things.
it out. Yeah. Took the skeleton
yes,
and was able to.
But Newton was also into numerology and other, pseudoscience stuff. So just because you've got a big person on your side doesn't lend credibility to your side.
There's something from the side chat from Brilliant asking, I thought oil was produced more from degradation of plant and cellular matter, and then fossil fuels was larger animals. Is that accurate, or is that, what do you guys think?
As far as I know, that is not the case. It is still both. So all fossil fuels are primarily made of photosynthetic organisms, as far as I'm aware. However, I am not a geochemist, so
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because I would
Wrong.
presume.
Vegri's adding on to that and saying, at least from my childhood education, the consensus was mostly that large deposits of coal and oil came from the massive carnivorous forest and swamps. Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, Carboniferous is the reason it's called the Carboniferous is because it's the time from when most of our coal deposits come, and that's because in large part it was the first time on Earth that we had large-scale forests with big woody-stemmed plants taking the niche of trees. Technically, they're not members of any of the tree groups that we have alive today, so saying they're trees is a little bit troublesome. But also, this woody stuff contained lignin, which there was nothing at the time that could eat.
Lignin my balls.
Lignin, but yes. And so because the stuff couldn't be broken down, basically anywhere there was a forest effectively turned into what we would now think of as like a peat bog,
Right.
where stuff doesn't
Sure.
really break down before it's buried. Because the definition
Right.
of a bog basically is new plant matter is created in the ecosystem at a rate higher than it degrades. And so overall, this unrotted plant matter just builds up layer upon layer at the bottom of the bog.
So
But that would
just,
just happen in a normal forest in the Carboniferous.
just to correct myself, I misread what Brilliant said. They were saying plants rather than large animals.
Okay.
Yes, so yeah,
And-
then you are correct about that.
Yeah. And another important function of bogs is that it's quite useful for making scotch.
Ooh.
Yes.
In the Scotch production, bogs can be quite important in the flavor profiles of scotch.
The flavor profile is from slowly decaying plant matter.
We're gonna go back to talking about Guinness and rats.
Why not?
I don't know. I might need to put some scotch in here just to
See how we
try this
do.
thing. Let's
See how we do.
let's see what I do.
Let's see if we can get a picture of him up here. Also, the French chemist Marcelin Berthelot and the Russian
Oh, yeah.
chemist and inventor Dmitry Mendeleev.
Yay!
Now, Mendeleev is best remembered for formulating the periodic law and creating in 1863 a far-sighted version of the periodic table of the elements.
Question, and not to doubt, is it a law or was it a table?
It almost
was a
sounded like
table.
he was presenting two different things. One periodic law and also the periodic table of elements.
I don't know. I'm asking.
I don't know either. It was a little unclear with the way that was worded. I would probably also go in and go with this this idea that because you're right and present one thing, it means that something else you've said is correct, and that is not the case. That is not how that works.
Yeah,
Do we
that is not
drink?
at all.
Do we drink for that?
Sure, why
Yeah,
not?
it's
I'm
an
thirsty.
implied fallacy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the opposite of guilt by association. It's like
Yeah, and
correctness by
Mendeley
association.
you know, he had some predictions, right?
Mhm.
And he didn't sound lie. He had some predictions, and in fact, some of the holes in the periodic table, people were able to fill in and see that there's something there. Because again,
Yeah.
they didn't. You know, we didn't really have a concrete notion of the nucleus in 1863, right? It was more of certain elements had similar properties, and they could calculate the atomic weight. Seemed to be going in that as well. So
I have like this problem with kind of the way this is being presented though, and I don't like that there's a lot of this that goes around when it comes to like this style of video when you present a hypothesis as if it's wrong to have a hypothesis that turns out to be not correct. Like, not being wrong after presenting a hypothesis doesn't make you a bad scientist. It doesn't make you wrong about other things that you're working on. Being wrong in science in a hypothesis is a good thing because you are actually able to show something. It's the showing of work that's valuable, not the whether or not the hypothesis is not important. That's not the important part.
Excellent point. Because when I talk about saying that science is about questions, a more nuanced version of that says it's about questions for which you can get them wrong, right? To have questions saying, I believe Star Trek is better than Star Wars. That's a debating thing. That's not a right or wrong thing.
Subjective,
but to say,
no, it's clearly Star Trek.
And I agree with it, by the way. I think Star Wars has a better community than Star Wars has a worse community than Star Trek. Let's put it up. But you know, if you talk about the fact
you heard it here, folks.
I hypothesize that there was once living organisms on Mars, on a wet Mars, early in its year. That's something where I can, if I make that hypothesis, I can be potentially wrong. So when you ask questions, you ask questions that you can turn out to be wrong, and that's okay. Yeah. It's okay to hypothesize, do a study and say, I'm wrong, blah, 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 blah.
Right, because you're able to actually produce results, and producing results is the thing that's valuable. So if you make a prediction and that prediction turns out to be wrong, at least you were able to produce a result, which is better than most cases. Also, we got clarification on Landon's question there that the famous periodic law that element properties are a periodic function of their atomic weight. So that the two of them, the table went in tandem with the law.
He's correct. Now I'm remembering from my.
Steve showed up and said, "Oh no, I missed the first 30 minutes of arguments. How will I ever be able to follow the complete nonsense of what you're reviewing?"
We haven't gone into very far in it. Okay.
We are 3 minutes into this 15-minute video. We're taking 10 minutes for every minute.
So he is not a slacker by any means.
No.
And
even
so
it was
many important early.
That doesn't impact your argument.
Right. I mean, it's nice to have a little bit of history about who you're citing and who you're referencing, but it doesn't necessarily make an argument. An argument it does not make.
Yes.
By any means. And so we have many important early scientists working on the idea that oil may be abiotic.
And when did they stop doing that, and why?
That's the thing. Like, we have many important early scientists working on all sorts of stuff that was wrong.
Yep. That's how
Great.
science works.
Who cares?
We've currently got lots of scientists that are working on stuff that's wrong. They just don't know it's wrong yet.
Yep.
Now, abiotic hypotheses were revived again in the last half of the 20th century.
So is flat
by a
Earth. What's your
Soviet
point?
Scientist who had little influence outside the Soviet Union because most of their research was published in Russian. The
Now, wait a minute.
hypothesis was redefined.
Wait.
Yeah, like there were no one outside of the Soviet Union who spoke Russian, apparently.
I'm gonna go ahead and add a drink to
wrong.
that.
Wrong. And
Yeah,
I know,
that's just big dumb.
I know in mathematics, there were actually journals dedicated to translating Russian number theory papers, for example, or mathematical papers, and people commenting on whether the translation was correct, because to translate something technical like a mathematical proof requires deep knowledge and paying attention to nuance. So in fact, there was a lot of journal stuff. And the Russians, by the way, the Soviets had a similar thing. They had people taking non-Russian papers and translating into Russian as well.
Right.
So the notion that it's somehow Soviet Union secret,
Oh, are we drinking for conspiracy as well? I'm drinking for conspiracy.
Ooh,
I'm
okay,
taking
fine.
that. I'm taking that.
yeah. Because I think they're using the Soviet Union thing as like, well, the West. Because remember, they said the West didn't
Right.
go along with it because the Soviets were.
Yeah, those
Yep.
sinister Westerners in
There's
their
an
strange ways.
There's an underlying current of conspiracy theory. So far, I
Also,
think
you know
it'll
who
get
counts as
more.
The West changes based on what period of history we're talking about.
It also changes depending on like where you live.
Yeah.
On the other hand, I'm gonna say something real quick just to wrap up the last point about science being science and being wrong, and because Rodent mentioned in the chat that you can be diligent and hardworking and still wrong. Being wrong doesn't mean you lose value. It's okay to be wrong. Wrong is not inherently a bad thing. You can be incorrect and your work can still have value. So just because you didn't succeed in what you thought you were going to succeed in doesn't mean you're not succeeding at all. That's your motivation for 2023, everybody.
Yeah, and for example, I did a lot of work in trying to search for volcanoid asteroids orbiting inside Mercury's orbit, very close to the sun. And I went to a number of eclipses and spent a lot of time imaging stuff. One of our goals was to not find something that doesn't exist. We didn't want to make the mistake of claiming to have discovered something that turned out to be a phantom. So we were very careful in what we did. We were wrong about the largest possible volcanoid asteroids, and pushed the problem down to where people are searching for stuff, have to search for things about the brightness of Pluto next to the sun, which is an extraordinarily difficult thing. But we were wrong, but in ways we were successful, even though we were wrong for what exists, because we didn't make a mistake of claiming a discovery that turned out to be falsified.
Being wrong does not mean not successful. Like, those are not equivalent. You can be wrong and still succeed.
In not finding objects that didn't exist.
Right. Good job.
I mean, that's important too.
It seems counterintuitive.
The hypothesis was redefined and made popular in the West by Thomas Gold. And here you can see his paper.
Oh, is that God? Was it supposed to say
Is
gold?
that God? Was it a typo?
Oh, yeah, that must be it.
Okay,
yeah, it must be it.
It's just a typo, everybody.
Okay.
Calm down. God was not involved in the making of this video.
Oh.
God has left the
Darn
chat. He wants nothing to do with this.
Cornell University.
Oh, it didn't play. Yep. Oh, it is playing. He just slow.
Now, Gold developed his theories from 1979 to about 1998 and published his research in English.
Ooh.
Now,
Okay.
this all goes and leads back to one area, the Gulf of Mexico, Eugene Island Block 330 field.
Okay.
Why does that sound like Area 51? The way he said that. Is that just me? All right.
No, I can.
I don't know.
Yeah.
are you casting doubt on these people?
It's just the way that sounded gave me like a vibe of like, everything that happened in this one space in Mexico. This definitely wasn't people across the world working on something that decided to drop it for no reason.
Well, Chess, I'm sure if the speaker heard you saying that, they'd probably say, with all due meaning, I'm sorry you feel that way.
The thing you don't understand.
It's located about 80 miles off the coast of Louisiana and is often cited by the proponents of the abiotic oil theory. Because depleted oil wells found themselves.
Did this make it to theory, or are we swapping words here? Because I'm going to drink for
I
that.
think we're swapping words.
Yeah,
All right, we'll take a drink.
we went from hypothesis to theory, and that's a quick little bait and switch right there if you're going to be talking science.
Yeah, you can't just call any old idea theory in science. It has to actually be rigorously supported and to have had many opportunities to have been falsified and yet not
Yes.
been.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
As if by magic, suddenly replenished with new oil. And no one could say exactly
Wait a minute.
why.
I'm
Wait a
putting this
minute.
back
So-
for a second. Yeah, go ahead.
So they're saying we had this oil well field
Yeah.
that was dwindling, and then all of a sudden it had a bunch of oil come in,
Yeah,
right?
that's a
Um,
drink.
Well, that's dumb on a couple of levels, right? I mean, here example is that let's say you have some strata for which the hydrocarbons are prevented from, it's difficult for it to break through, and you
Right.
tap into it and start sucking out the stuff, or you're pumping stuff in to drive stuff out, and you create a sort of a depletion area. You can get material starting to move towards your set through the strata and get a change in flow, right? It's not a matter of, it's not like you're sticking a straw into your 7-Eleven Slurpee cup and then all of a sudden find the cup has twice as much Slurpee, right? This is not how it works. It really is and sometimes in a field they can be in one area pumping material in to try to force stuff, some of it's even going to fracking, try to force
Right.
material, cause a resurgence elsewhere. Sometimes they'll stop pulling fuel out and allow that material to
Move
move
on its
towards your
own.
well
Yeah.
and come out, right?
Yeah.
So well fluctuation does not mean there's some magical thing filling your
So,
Slurpee
are
cup.
you suggesting that this is so big dumb that it needs 2 drinks or 3 drinks?
It does need more than
More than
It's-
one.
it's a-
All right. We'll make
All
it
right.
we'll make it 12 and throw 2 more in there for that.
Yeah.
So yeah, this place in Mexico had a oil well that had run dry that magically refilled apparently. That's what he's getting at.
Because it
Yeah.
takes time
All-
for hydrocarbons to migrate, right?
Yep.
And
All
then-
that means is there was another well that hadn't been discovered that was connected. That's
Yes.
it. That's all it means. Or not well, but deposit.
At best.
Yeah. That's
At best.
deposit.
that's
And leads back to one area, the Gulf of Mexico, Eugene Island Block 330 field. It's
Wow.
located about 80 miles off the coast of Louisiana and is often cited by the proponents of the abiotic oil theory. Because depleted
Theory.
oil wells found themselves, as if by magic, suddenly replenished with new oil.
Oh god.
No one could say
You
exactly
saying as
why.
if by magic doesn't actually make it more significant than it is, dude.
It does
Yes.
sound
That's
like
not
it's
how that
kind
works.
of presenting something as more fantastical than it is.
Right.
Hmm.
Oh no, subterranean migration of hydrocarbon fuels.
Oh my god, guys,
Okay.
liquid
Well,
moves.
Right, basically.
Who would have thought? Some of the gaseous stuff too. Who would have thought, right?
Who'd have thought? What a
Yeah,
what a
that's
discovery.
all we're doing.
Yay.
Eugene Island is a submerged mountain with a landscape riven with deep fissures and faults from which spew spontaneous belches of gas and oil.
Well, there's
See
your
this
there.
all the way up.
Did he just
There's your-
explain
your-
why he was wrong?
Yes.
I'm drinking for that.
Basically, yeah. Okay.
Let's just explain exactly why I'm not wrong, or why what I just said was incorrect in the next sentence. Huzzah!
Up to the surface. Now, a platform designated Eugene Island 330 began producing about 15,000 barrels of oil per day in the early 1970s.
Wow.
And by 1989, the flow had dwindled to only 4,000 barrels per day. Then,
Cool.
suddenly, without warning,
Uh-oh.
production zoomed
Ooh.
back up to 13,000 barrels.
Wow.
In
Okay.
addition, estimated reserves rocketed from 60 to 400 million barrels overnight.
Wow,
so
that's
this
a
is-
lot of big
this is-
numbers.
This is a logical problem, right? We're not getting the logic right here.
Mhm.
So, if you have a hypothesis, right, and you want to put it up against the braining hypothesis, the operating understanding that science is going off of, that's great. You need some predictions, and some of your predictions need to actually account for what the current hypothesis or theory account for, right? Because otherwise, why should anyone take it seriously? If you can't account for
Yes.
current data that is already accounted for, then there's no point. However, you can't use the fact that both hypotheses account for that data as an argument in favor of your hypothesis. You have to show why your hypothesis also accounts for things that the other standard model doesn't. And that's not what's happening right here. What's happening here is that he's citing events which are perfectly explicable under standard models of geology and petrochemical formation, or fossil fuel formation, and saying, well, see, I can account for this too, therefore I must be right. No, that's not how it works.
Yeah, it's there's something happening here that we see from flat earthers. There's something happening here that we see from young earth creationists. There's something happening here that we see from most like conspiracy theory styled videos. Although this is dressed up a little bit nicer, the rhetoric's a little bit cleaner. What we've got here
Well, I mean,
is
it's dressed up as much as a PragerU video, right?
right. It's like I'm not presenting anything. I'm just poking holes in other people's work. I'm not providing my own work. I'm just poking holes in your work.
And he's failing even at that, because what he's poking
Yes.
holes in, there's not actually a hole there.
Right.
Yeah. Well, there is. They drilled into the.
Fair.
Sorry, trademark.
Even
Canada.
more anomalous,
we gotta make a drink every time Landon says sorry, trademark Canada.
was the discovery that the geologic
Landon
age
bingo.
of today's oil coming from the well site was quite different from that recovered a decade ago.
He just explained it again. Here's another reason why it was a different vein pumping in, or a different set of, or a
Yes.
different
Yeah.
amount pumping in through the same area. I'm drinking again for that. Because the oil was
fair enough.
different. Yeah, of course the oil was different because it was a different vein that came through. Oh my god.
Because you reduce pressure by pulling it out, and so neighboring regions through all those fractures could flood it with new material.
I have a meme for this.
This guy is unfucking believable.
I can't deal with stuff like that.
It's difficult to avoid the conclusion that the oil reservoir at Eugene Island was rapidly refilling itself from some continuous source miles below the Earth's surface.
He's right. It's
In support
difficult.
of this surmise, analysis of seismic records revealed a deep fault which was gushing oil like a garden hose. The deep-seated oil source
So the pressure came back. That's just pressure.
Yeah.
Water,
the pressure came back,
liquid
of
moves.
course.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, the pressure came back because, of course, the oil that's down there is still going to be covered by all the overburden that they didn't remove. Because how would
Yes.
you remove the overburden underwater? Overburden, by the way, is just the rock above the oil that you're
looking
trying
for
to
this.
pump. What
Squishing down,
creates
yes.
that high pressure? Yeah. So if you didn't remove the overburden, of course the new oil is going to be under that pressure. What are the other options? Yeah, it's perfectly well drinkable.
Gravity doesn't exist. I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, apparently.
It's a density gradient.
Source at Eugene Island strongly supported Thomas Gold's theory about the deep, hot biosphere, in which he
Oh, baby, tell me about that deep, hot biosphere.
Deep Thought House. So this is on Amazon Books?
Yes.
It sounds like the porn parody of like a like microbiology documentary.
I am. Why am I allowed to make the? I am the definition of anybody is allowed to make a YouTube channel and say stupid garbage on the internet. You tell me about your sexy, deep, hot biosphere, daddy.
but you know, it's a. I guess it's a thing as well that you know, this. I guess this must be hydrocarbon fan fiction or something. I don't know.
Oh no.
wrote a book in 2001.
Yeah, he did.
Now, Gold
Tell me about it,
is
God.
a respected astronomer and professor emeritus at Cornell University, which is quite respectable in my opinion.
When you have to go out of your way to say that the university you're talking about is respectable, I'm immediately suspicious of what you're about to tell me.
I mean, Cornell is a respectable university.
It is.
But as some astronomer is talking about geology, right? Unless the astronomer is specialized in planetary science and has background and has peer-reviewed and online.
Right, but it's one of those things where it's not like every single person that came out of that university succeeds at life. That's not a guarantee.
So professor emeritus, meaning retired professor, writes a book where he was a professor. He claimed to be an astronomer, but I mean, he might have been writing a book about planetary science, I guess, would be the closest you could say. So, okay, so what?
I'm drinking for sus.
The other thing is, if you're
I'm
right,
just making up
it
the
doesn't
rules as we're
depend
going.
on your fancy titles and where you got your PhD. Because the thing is, science doesn't actually have our degree requirements for publication, right? Or for being found to be right. Now, it's easier to publish if you have the degrees that would normally give you the background information because, one, you're less likely to publish something obviously dumb. You'll have been trained in how to deal with the publication requirements of journals, stuff like that, right? So it makes it much easier if you have the degree. However, having the degree neither ensures that you're right, nor is it a requirement in order to publish. So whenever anyone's coming around like, oh, well, I have this big fancy degree, I'm immediately like, okay, why are you telling me that? Because most of the reasons I can think of is because what you're about to say is dumb.
Right, it's this
and you
flag.
want me to not think it's dumb.
Big red flag.
You want to try, no. And so, just like in Fire, Science, and Theater, Dr. Science only had a master's degree in science.
There's one of those things where it's like, this is what I mean when you go out of your way to tell me that the university that you're talking about is coming from, it tells me that you don't think people are going to believe what you're telling them. So you need to add extra layers into whatever it is that you're saying to try and give credibility to what you're about to say. This is a rhetorical device.
Yeah, it's a propaganda process, right?
Yeah.
And they didn't need to say Cornell is a respected university. It's not respected because they say it. It's because of what happens in the university and what the people there are doing that gives it respect.
Right.
Yeah.
It like whatever you're presenting should stand on its own. Credentials are nice, and it might be easier to persuade people to take what you're saying seriously. But it might make it easier for you to advance the field in a direction because you have the foundation to make it easier for you if you're good at school. But it's not, like Dapper was saying, it's not necessary. All right, I hit play.
He has held for years that oil is actually a renewable resource. And well,
I mean, in the long run, it is.
This is that's a different question entirely. Whether or not it's a renewable resource and whether or not it's a bio are two different things. I'm going with this as a bait and switch. Right? Because like you can sit around and talk about whether or not oil reserves could refill themselves over an amount of time under the right conditions. I mean, ideally, in an idealistic world, yeah, you would be able, assuming oil didn't cause the problems it does from an atmospheric point of view, you theoretically could have a factory with the proper conditions in it getting biofuel just thrown into it like forever, indefinitely, and produce oil out of it. No? Am I wrong about this?
Yeah, you're fine.
No,
okay, good. I'm not an idiot.
Plus, even naturally, right?
Right.
You could, if you were able to wait tens of millions of years, you could have renewable fuels like that. That's fine, you know.
It's like the difference between farming like corn, which is seasonal, versus farming something that is like a monthly, versus farming something that takes 100 years. So like up in Canada, the Algonquin Park, one of the biggest parks in Canada, conservation parks in Canada, farms trees. So they clear cut and clear out an entire chunk of that forested area, but they have it measured out so they know which parts of the park that they're clearing out what year, so that way they're always, every year they're clearing something out, but they like cross them all the way to different parts of the park so they don't affect each other and you're not just clear cutting the whole place. So the trees in Canada, from that area at least, a lot of the logging industry is farmed the way you would farm anything else. So oil would work the same way, it would just be a longer period of time.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna hit play.
Position.
Glad I'm not a crazy
Oil
person.
is nothing
Feels like
more
it
than
sometimes.
a primordial syrup continually manufactured by the earth under ultra-hot conditions and tremendous pressures thanks to, well, plate tectonics or something similar that's working as the plates get injected into the subsurface.
Plate tectonics is creating fossil fuels?
Yes, apparently.
Gonna press X to doubt that one. I'm gonna go ahead and put it on our drink counter because I'm gonna need a citation for this.
Well, I mean, it's got to be some kind of abiotic process, right? According to them, so I guess it makes sense.
So plate tectonics?
I mean, what are the options, really?
I mean, if it's not gonna be, I guess if it's not organic, it's gonna have to be non-organic. Therefore, rocks did it. But which rocks under which conditions? Because all they said was real hot. I feel like if that was the only condition, we'd be making it already. Except now it was a conspiracy of Russian Soviets to make sure that the West didn't know about it because they wrote it in Russian.
Well, now that you put it that way.
Now that you put it that way, take a drink.
Basically how it works. Now, the processes aren't that simple, and we'll go over some of the peer-reviewed studies in the last decade about the process, but it all starts with methane. And
what? Hold on. Peer review studied
methane?
Under the and what was the result of the peer review?
Yeah.
Because like everything in science is supposed to be peer reviewed. That doesn't suddenly, because it was peer reviewed, doesn't mean it was accepted.
Yeah.
Yeah, peer review is the first step.
So they're going to start with...
Go ahead.
I guess they're going to start with... The process starts with farts, right? Because aren't farts, bacteria stuff, a lot of it is methane that they produce?
I mean, as far as I know, yeah, methane is a pretty common, byproduct of the metabolism of many organisms.
Yeah.
So, just to be clear, we've gone from, is fossil fuel really made the way they tell us it's made, to it's definitely not, and the majority, and a large number that has not been specified is what's making it. And now then it was Russians were working on this, but we didn't really know about it. Then when we did know about it, we didn't follow through. And it was actually plate tectonics the whole time?
With methane and the deep hot biosphere?
After bait and switching the term hypothesis with theory?
But also,
So-
the deep hot biosphere makes me think that it is biotic. So
I don't know which is it. Which lane are they picking? And I'm thinking like areas like in Gulf of Mexico or some places where there's petroleum deposits. You don't see. I'm not seeing large oil deposits showing up on continental plate boundaries. I'm not seeing the Mid-Atlantic Ridge full of all these oil gushers and things because of stuff cracking up. I don't know.
If this
But
was
maybe-
the case, why is gas so fucking expensive right now?
oh, that's part of the
conspiracy.
They want to keep their profits up. It's big oil.
Democrats. Ben said Democrats.
Democrats.
Yeah, damn those Democrats.
We know there's huge methane reserves beneath the surface of the Earth. And as this substance of methane migrates towards the surface, it is attacked by bacteria, making it appear to have an organic origin dating back to the dinosaurs.
That would be an organic origin. Oh, I'm
Yes.
taking a drink. Bacteria aren't
Yes.
organic, apparently. I want to find these non-organic bacteria. I really do. That sounds
What
amazing.
happened to the plate tectonics?
I don't know. I don't know what's.
Uh,
But it is, it's appearing, Chesh, as you said, that they just cast aspersions on other, things they don't like to try to give themselves indirect credibility. So,
I don't understand. Like, your idea, your hypothesis should stand on its own. You should be able to present something that functions in the world as we know it.
yeah, and also you shouldn't confuse bacteria for non-living inorganic things because
Yeah,
they're both
yeah,
organic and living.
Why is this Mr. Geologist here talking about biochemistry? So I'm getting another drink for scientist outside of his field.
Mm.
And in the interim is
It's like a
converted
pop
into
noise.
oil.
Yeah, that
The
that
apparent
was
deep-seated oil source at Eugene Island and Gold's
I don't know.
ideas make petroleum
I think that's their
engineers
report.
wonder about similar situations at the seemingly inexhaustible oil fields in the Middle East.
Seemingly inexhaustible oil fields in the Middle East. What about
Wow.
them makes them seem inexhaustible, please?
that they're being secretive about how much is left. It's the best I can come up with.
Yeah.
I'm drinking for that one. That beer just splashed up out of my nose and my forehead.
Wait, how is the Nutella beer?
I don't. It's not terrible, but it does take some getting used to. Like the first sip of this was like, what is in my mouth? But I'm about halfway through it, and it's I could drink this. I don't know if I drink a lot of it, but I can see why people might not like it because stouts are kind of thick.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a thick. I haven't had Nutella in a really long time, but this is probably Nutella-esque with like beer in it. It's like take
Okay.
some Nutella, put it in a blender, get some
Yeah.
beer, put that in a blender, blend it together, make sure that you pick at least an amber, nothing lighter, and make sure you blend it until all of the all carbon is out of it, so it's not fizzy anymore.
Okay, so let's see what's happened with these seemingly inexhaustible oil fields.
This would be really good in like with a dessert that's got marshmallows in it.
Now, Norman Hine, a professor at the University of Tulsa in Oklahoma, said, the Middle East
Hi, Puck.
has more than doubled its
Puck.
reserves in the past decades. Despite half a
More than
century of
doubled.
intense exploitation and relatively
Okay, hold on.
few
No, we
new
have to pause
discoveries.
and talk about that for a second.
Wait.
It's,
Yeah.
it's not that the Middle East has more than
Hi,
double
Puck.
their reserves. Oh, hi, Puck. It's that the Middle East has doubled their proven reserves. They've doubled the amount that they know they have. That's because there's been additional oil exploration.
Doesn't that also mean that like how we only know how much they have based on how much they're deciding to tell us, though, right?
Yeah.
Well,
but,
also
I mean,
it's an economic factor too, because the notion of how much oil you can extract, what your reserves are, depends upon the process. For example, in Canada, upper Midwest, due to processes of fracking, the reserves greatly increase because now you have previously hydrocarbons becoming available, right? And in fact, it was the part of the fracking boom came from the fact that the price of petroleum went quite high due to scarcity. People then took that opportunity to go out and develop processes that became economical, and all of a sudden the amount of reserves expanded because now you have oil. The people in that Middle East area attempted to try to counter that by trying to drop the price of oil down below what
Yeah. I feel like
they
there's
failed.
like a whole nother issue of like just completely misrepresenting what and how the Middle East operates when it comes to the global stage, like how they present themselves in general,
Yeah.
and how like what their laws and rules are around oil reserves and how they go about their business. So
Yeah.
are we subtle racism? Is this subtle racism? Or just
it
ignorance?
might be,
Yeah.
but at the very least, it's big dumb.
Big Dumb. We drink for Big Dumb. Big Dumb is definitely
Yeah.
definitely a drink.
Recoveries and continuous pumping, the Middle East has doubled its reserves. How is that even possible? Well,
Because oil exploration is a thing.
because you have oil exploration, and also areas that previously would have been inaccessible become more economically accessible as recovery techniques and extraction techniques improve, or the price makes them economically viable.
Yep.
just
There are
coming
wells,
from deep in
just
the
like there are
mantle.
mines. So I live in Arizona, where this is actually a pretty big thing, right? Certain mines only operate when the price of usually copper in this area is above a certain level, and that's because below that it costs more to operate the mine than you get from the copper. So we have copper mines around here that are only occasionally open, and it's only when it's profitable. Now we also have copper mines where like you dig up enough gold usually to cover the operating costs. So who cares? Just keep on doing it. But the same thing happens with oil, right? If oil is below a certain price, certain oil extraction locations and techniques are not worth it. So you don't bother. But if the price of oil keeps going up or your technology gets better, which makes it easier to operate a particular location profitably, then you might start including what you might not have in your oil reserve calculations. I mean, it's pretty basic. Also, I'm going to get a new rum and coke because I'm out.
All right, quick.
And I've got to go and get a new
All
drink.
right, quick drink break. Quick drink break. See you guys all in a minute. I didn't mute myself. You can hear me get my food. Da, 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 da. I got some Wendy's. If anybody cares. I got a snack. I just threw the bag, and the bag still has the napkins in it, so that was probably an error on my part, but I can't be held responsible for this. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. I think Landon's just sitting down here, and Dapper should be back real quick. Although I do enjoy that Dapper definitely called out that quick little break as I was setting up for it, too, because we were right at the hour mark. Perfecto. The man reads my mind. I mean, the dinosaur reads my mind. Get out of my head. So we're just finishing setting up here. For anybody joining us, we are looking at magnetic reversal news. Oh, we're in. Why are we in this one? We should be over here. Ooh, there we go. And we are currently working on 26 drinks at the top of the hour. This video that we're watching right now has 7,248 views, and the channel itself has 42.6k subscribers. So
that's really low for that many.
Yeah, they also had this video was on December 21st that it came out. There are a lot of citations here for anybody who is interested in some of the papers that they do cite, which they've shown on screen a little bit. So they are there. You're more than welcome to go and check it out. The link to this is in the description down below. And there's some really fun comments, like, my dad used to travel to oil rigs all over the world as an operations manager or something. Or something.
Oh. Yeah. Okay, yeah.
He was up there and knew his shit about something. He said they'd pump an oil reserve dry, abandon it, then come back a few years later. Then the reserve was full again. Insane. This is written by Dickbutt7854.
A well-respected petroleum commentator, yes.
You know what?
Senior.
Technically, not believing the comment because it's made by someone named Dickbutt is an ad hominem, and we don't want to do that.
That doesn't make it not funny.
And true,
Yes.
that could be somebody who is into methane reserves or the biological persuasion.
Listen, Dickbutt7854 Senior might have been telling the truth, but because we already talked about how that could actually be possible without any of the other nonsense.
It's very so the thing is that's just a normal thing that happens, right? That's not weird or unusual.
What, Dickbutt?
Dickbutt.
Well, no, the refilling of oil reserves.
You cannot
right?
tell me Dickbutt doesn't happen, Dapper.
Well, okay, I'm not telling you that. I'm just saying it's not what I was talking about in particular this one time.
So I have decided to go for some organic molecules of produced by Lefroy, a single malt whiskey, 10 years, because I think we are getting into a territory where I need to take my tea totaling and spice it up.
There you go. I am having another rum and Coke, but this time the Coke is sans caffeine.
Ooh.
Because I need to be able to sleep because these two here have been keeping me up doing drinking streams like every other day for days.
You say that like the last one wasn't on your own channel.
I'm just saying, it's been happening.
This is some fake news.
It's real, and I'm just not always placing the blame where it ought to be.
You're saying this like Landon, as soon as I presented this, didn't fire back at me with one that was 30 minutes long.
Fair.
And I am not, as I'm going to ask, putting the scotch into the tea. I have a separate Antarctica glass. This is a forged at Odmondson Scotch. things. So
we also have a request from Sean, which we'll do this at the end of the video, and it says, as an experiment, what does the rest of that person's channel look like in terms of video library? So I'm just gonna open this in another tab and make sure I don't forget by the end of the stream. All right,
Landon, this is a little off topic, but like, is it hard to forge glass down there? Because like, I imagine it's not easy to keep the temperature up. And glass needs to be really hot.
but they do have, you know, propane is one of the.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's true.
Well, at night, the 6 months night, and but recycling is quite important because it takes it's right now almost 100 euros a kilogram just to get something to the South Pole. So they try to reuse things as much as possible.
You know what? Instead of going to Mars, I want Elon Musk to just go to Antarctica and create a 100% self-sustaining city there, because it's gonna be way easier than Mars, right?
At least that would be like
way more habitable than Mars.
That'd be at least like a test of theory, like to see if it works.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Like,
you're
Elon,
nicer than I am.
there's
I
at
kind of
least
just
air.
you're nicer than I am. I just kind of want Elon Musk to go.
Well, okay, but like, unless he can do it in some place like Antarctica, where like, okay, look, Antarctica is colder than where his Mars location is probably going to be. That's fair, but not by a lot, really. Not by a lot. Not certainly in winter. In winter, Mars is colder than Antarctica basically anywhere, unless you're on the equator.
Yes.
But also, Antarctica has water and it has oxygen, so it's going to be easier. Also, in an emergency, there are other people there that you can evacuate from. So, like,
Yes.
dude, build yourself a self-sustaining colony in Antarctica, and then once you do that, then maybe think about Mars, where it's going to be way harder.
To be fair, I
Yes.
think that's
It's
actually a
reasonable.
really realistic proposal. Like, if Elon Musk is as good as he says, and he believes in his project as much as he does, he should be able to make it work there so that everybody can see and prove it before anybody invests any money into it.
Oh, and bring all
And-
the crypto bros with you, Elon, because look, there'll be really easy cooling for all their Bitcoin mining rigs.
And you'll have tons of salt. You won't have to worry.
But no, actually, it's a case where I mean, I guess you know, Musk would probably not like the fact he has to clean up after your mess. I mean,
Well, he can hire a janitor.
You're not allowed to. Well, yes, you could hire somebody to take care of Mr. Hanky. You're not allowed to leave Mr. Hanky where you block
Right.
it. We're not creating new oil reserves.
The Middle East has doubled its reserves. How is that even possible?
Yeah, we already
Well,
talked about it.
Maybe
Because-
it's just coming from deep in the mantle. It would
Ugh.
take a pretty big pile of dead dinosaurs and prehistoric plants to account for the estimated 660 additional billion barrels of oil that had just spontaneously popped up in this region.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so
Well,
hold on.
no,
Yeah.
no.
That's going to 30 from 26.
So first,
Because go ahead. Please go ahead.
so first of all, yeah, it would require a lot of dead, not dinosaurs, because dinosaurs make up essentially none of it, but it would require a fair bit of extra biomass to account for that. Good thing we have literally 400 million years of fossil fuel formation and the biosphere production, during most of which the biosphere on the surface was actually larger than it is now, or not the biosphere, the mass of the biosphere was higher then than now, because I don't know if you know, but while the interglacial climate that humans find themselves in now is great for humans, for the biosphere as a whole, like the Jurassic was basically like peak biosphere. So like
Wasn't the oxygen level also bigger higher as well? Or was
oxygen
it- or were they lower?
levels were a bit higher, CO2 levels were a bit higher, temperature was a lot higher, and there was a lot more just biomass on the ground. I mean, I'm not saying that we should go back to the Jurassic climate, because that would be terrible for, you know, the humans here. But if your goal were just like maximum biomass as soon as possible, ultimately it would be just like, yeah, just let climate change go crazy and then wait a few million years and the biomass of the Earth will be significantly higher than now. You know, humans might not be around, but
And remember again, expanding your reserves is a function of technology and production costs.
And exploration.
I want to name that fallacy of, but there's no possible way that with these numbers that this could be a thing.
And I really object to the spontaneous.
The word spontaneous? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like it's like it was a Star Trek teleported stuff into the
Came out of nowhere.
Yeah. Well, you wouldn't get this with a Jedi mind trick, which is why Star Trek is better than Star Wars.
Oh my
There you
god.
go.
Don't come for me. Come for Landon. We'll have to have we'll have another debate hub on that, Star Trek versus Star Wars, and then some asshole's gonna come in here and be like, Stargate, you're both wrong. I will add a drink for my joke that didn't land. Fine.
Ah.
I like
Let me
it.
repeat that.
Thanks.
The Middle East has
Thanks.
doubled its reserves in the past decades. Despite the intense exploitation, I mean, they're feeding oil and gas to the entire world, and now it has an estimated 660 billion barrels in reserve in the region.
You say that like they're the only ones providing oil across the world. That is not the case.
It's
Bullshit.
not.
Hi, I'm from Canada. There's this place called Alberta, which is basically the Texas of Canada. There's a lot of oil fields out in Alberta. In fact,
That sounds
so
made
much so that the Albertans get mad about taxes because they feel like they're getting ripped off because they have to, pay them.
No taxes for
West
Alberta.
archaeologists are controlled by the oil and gas industry and the puppet media, the puppet government, and the shadow oligarchy, whoever they
you
are.
got the puppet
national
media and
science-
puppet government. Puppet media.
The truth
puppet
comes
government.
out.
There it goes. There we go. Full conspiracy. There it is.
Amazing.
got a drink
Yep. That's a 33.
Yeah, we'll take a drink on that one.
But,
And we got 33 on conspiracy. That's another conspiracy. We should take another drink.
oh, yep. Russian vids. Drink for Russian vids.
So, has Russian Viz ever figured out which way you're transitioning, Chesh?
I haven't heard from Russian vids since that video. He ran from me and never came back. And
So
I'm
you're-
not sorry.
From Goblin or to Goblin?
Yeah, which way? That's the question.
There is only
Yeah.
Goblin. Let's be real. I cannot with it. Okay. They haven't actually presented any reason or argument at all as to why any of this would be kept quiet. Now, I'm no fan of the mainstream media. They are a pain in my ass. And they're mostly a pain in everybody else's ass because they're mostly just not very good at their job currently.
I think Dick Buck would, 45, whatever his name is, would agree.
Yeah, right? I think that there are a lot of problems with the government, and I think the majority of governments are not as transparent as they should be, or at least as they ought to be, and I think people should complain about that more. However, we are now talking about a conspiracy that involves Russia, the West, in quotations, which would include Mexico, America, and Canada. What did I say? Mexico, Mexico, America, and Canada at minimum. Potentially Brazil. And the Middle East. All just being like, nah, bro, our secret, growing patch of oil.
Oh, it's gonna have to be Colombia too, based on that map. Look at how much of Colombia is in there.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's a lot of places that have to work together to keep everything on the DL.
Fun fact about conspiracies: the more people have to be in on it, the less easy it is to keep a conspiracy going.
Right, and you've got this, and it's been going on for years because no scientists spoke Russian during the Cold War. Why would they? That's absurd.
Yes.
Russian is an arcane, impossible to learn language that you shouldn't even try with.
I just don't. Could you if you're going to present that you have this idea that's been like crushed by mainstream media. Could you at least give a reason why mainstream media would crush it?
No, that's a lot to ask for.
Like, why would the mainstream media be involved in being like, no, bro, that scientist over there and what they're saying?
By the way, and Bede in the chat asked if you were trans.
This is a long running joke.
Do you want to give the TLDR?
Okay, yeah, I'll. So once upon a time, I showed up to a debate that involved a guy named Russian Vids. And Russian Vids was so offended by my appearance, because I was like a little bit dressed up for it. I thought I looked a little bit nice and a little bit sassy. And he said he had two main points. One, that I needed to turn my camera off because he couldn't hear me. And second, that he couldn't tell which way I was transitioning. Or no, so he said I was trans, and then I asked him which way I was transitioning, and he couldn't give me an answer.
Yeah, he's one of those transvestigation guys who thinks that basically anyone he doesn't like has to be trans.
The way to describe Russian Vids is if there's a conspiracy theory, he believes it.
Mm-hmm.
So is it dwarf to goblin or goblin to dwarf?
Ooh. I don't know. For a long time in high school, I was called a leprechaun.
Oh.
It's got an elven thing.
Yeah.
Maybe it's leprechaun and goblin because those both have Fey origins.
Yes, it's all Fey in there.
Okay. All right.
I may or may not be the tooth fairy that visited you as a child.
Ooh.
Science Foundation, and no one is being funded for abiotic oil genesis work. In fact...
Gee, I wonder why.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The world may never know.
That doesn't make any sense to even the conspiracy, though. If fuel is abiogenesis, why would they not be paying scientists to make them more money?
Well, they would.
So then,
they absolutely would.
Then the theory the conspiracy theory doesn't fly, because if it's like big secret money, then it would be money.
Yeah. Because I would think you'd want to know what the production rates are, whether certain places have more production than others, and so you can have sustainable extraction processes. I would guess, but I don't know. We'll have to see.
The powers that be are eliminating this unlimited natural resource from our nomenclature and are literally bankrupting the earth and killing off humanity.
What?
Yes, because the elites don't also have to worry about all the same things that everyone else does. The elites don't have to worry about their own power needs. They don't have to worry about their own air quality. None of that stuff. That's all just stuff that plebs have to worry about, apparently.
Killing off humanity. So killing off humanity. I wonder how they're doing. Are they doing it like some sort of National Socialist Worker Party thing or global?
It's the vaccines. They're putting the microchips in the vaccines.
To be fair, they have not brought up Nazis yet. They've stuck with the Soviets.
That's true. And if there's one thing you can say about the Soviets is that they were not big fans of the Nazis.
I swear to God, if I hit play
on the other hand,
go ahead.
Just checking. Who were the two countries that invaded Poland at the beginning of?
Yeah, history major.
I mean, yeah, it was the Soviet Union and Germany, but they were fighting each other.
Aiding and abetting.
I mean,
the deep lore.
Like the list of who's aiding and abetting is one side or the other is a very long list.
It's not as long as World War I, because you want to get really wacky in terms of the junior high school drama stuff. It's this country aligned with this and then that and so forth. World War I's a much more of a cluster F than.
Oh yeah.
I don't like when a conspiracy theory folds in on itself instantaneously by its own existence.
Bankrupting the earth and killing off humanity.
Well,
why would
hurry
kill
up.
off humanity?
Get me out. Hurry up and kill us all off already. Goddamn.
And in fact, many Western geologists and scientists find the theory of abiotic oil either annoying or simply amusing. And
Drink.
Yeah.
Drink for some scientists.
I would agree with that.
Yeah,
Yeah, it is annoying and amusing all at the same time.
that's fair. I'm not a scientist, and I think that. Does that count? Do I count?
Yeah,
Sweet.
yeah. You're
Yay.
currently a science communicator right now.
Oh no. Oh
Yes,
no.
right?
Don't put that on me.
It's too late.
Refuse to consider it seriously, although there are some exceptions. The theory
Okay, but why? You're just saying they're doing this, you're not explaining why. Is the reason why because it's already had its opportunity and has been shown to be nonsense?
Yes.
Because if that's the case, then bugger off. You are annoying and kind of funny. Drinking for that.
Although there are some exceptions, the theory continues to be held in much higher
Theory.
regard by Russian scientists and geologists for historical and maybe ideological reasons, but the proof is in the pudding.
Okay, let's see the proof.
Two things.
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
We got this.
Two things. Did we not discuss at the very beginning of this video as a prediction or as what we were talking about that the reason why this was being funded by the Russian government was for during that time period was for ideological reasons and that it would be convenient for them that it was true?
Mm-hmm.
So we drink for prediction.
Yeah. I predict that we won't see pudding, let alone proof, in the next few.
I think that this person needs to not bring the good name of pudding into this.
You need to go back to the older definition of pudding, where it was basically anything that had been boiled in a bag, and it could include lots of meat dishes.
Ooh.
Yes.
Jack of Hearts for 2 said Giant Meteor 2023.
There's a lot of things on British naval ships that were puddings that allegedly were organic.
Allegedly organic.
These reserves are replenishing themselves, in some cases, unexplainable ways.
Name one.
Unexplainable. So
The truth is out there, dude.
Google it. I'm gonna put allegedly organic on a t-shirt.
well, things that they would feed the impressed people on naval ships who were naval, not pirates, because some monarch gave them the imprimatur. Or
listen, the monarchy said you're allowed to be a pirate, so therefore it's fine.
Yeah. Anyway, but let's not get into piracy at this stage. Let's see these unexplainable ways. I'm looking for the pudding. Where's the proof in the pudding?
Well,
Where's the
yeah,
pudding?
we can't have proof in the pudding if we don't have pudding first.
I've
really,
got the proof in the bottle. It's 46 proof.
you can tell we started off.
No,
This has been a
46%.
slow burn. We started off slow and we're about to round 40. Brilliant for five.
It's
Go ahead.
It's 86 proof. I got 86 proof. So you bring the pudding, we'll mix.
Brilliant for 5 said, "Okay, I get this channel now. It's an online resume for a spot on the History Channel."
Amazing.
I'm putting a drink in for that because that was.
Yeah, that's great.
Excellent. And by the way, that's $5 dues. Is it?
$5 dues. Yep, it's Australian. I don't tend to specify on the channel because whatever. I'm lazy.
But
I
for
just like to say
Australians,
dollar reduce.
yes.
Fair.
Now, let's really take a quick look at what is going on. Back in 2009, a team of scientists realized that hydrocarbons were being produced deep in the earth,
Deep.
right near the core mantle boundary.
What?
The oil and gas
Wait.
We drink for Landon Hulk mode. Incoming.
No,
Yeah,
not
here
at
it
the
is.
pressures and temperatures. Like no. The pressures and temperatures. I mean, they're yeah. Okay. No. Wait. Yeah.
Go.
At
Go,
least there hasn't
Landon.
been shitty CGI yet.
It's true.
I mean, so they're saying that down near that spot, right? That's actually where where I assume they're talking about deep down where we believe the magnetosphere is the dynamo is mostly in that region, and it's very hot, very high temperatures. In fact, it's only we can only sort of approach those sort of conditions with the diamond emerald press. It's quite and so the notion of having complex molecules survive in that kind of thing is to me a little bit incredulous.
We have to have a drink.
Or I'm incredulous about that notion.
We have to have a drink for Sean, if you remember Sean's prediction. Drink for Sean's prediction.
Okay.
Nailed it.
That fuels our homes and cars started out as living organisms that died, according to many, and were compressed and heated under heavy layers of sediment in the Earth's crust. But this may not be exclusively the case. In fact, studies in recent times, here's a 2011 paper, Hydrocarbons Deep in the Earth, are showing the first principle molecular dynamic simulation of liquid methane in contact with hydrogen-terminated diamonds. At high temperatures...
I'm sorry, I just saw something at the bottom here. They messaged during this buckle up, and then same holes from the 1950s I'm assuming they mean refill all by themselves. The science is controlled for you demise.
So
okay.
So they're saying that down deep hydrogen-terminated diamonds are interacting with methane to do magic? What's
Yes.
And pressures. Now we know the mantle is filled with diamond. Kimberlite pipes prove that to us. And with the diamond methane
before.
Listen, there is no map. We don't really know what's underground. There's no, like, layers that we have sorted or anything. What are you talking about?
Interaction, you can spontaneously create hydrocarbons. Yep. At a depth below the Earth of at least 10 miles. Abiogenic hydrocarbons of purely chemical deep crust or mantle origin could occur in some geologic settings. This is coming from a paper back in 2011.
Cherry picking out somebody's paper. Oh, we can pull this one up. This one was hydrocarbons in the deep earth. So luckily, this person is good enough. Again, credit where credit is due. They give the citation, so it is this one right here. Hydrocarbons in the deep earth. This doesn't look like the one he was looking at. I've been lied to. Is it this one? Nope. What the hell? Which one were you looking at? Why would you do this to me? None of these look like the one he was looking at. Why? Okay, I'm gonna guess. Fine. Make my life more difficult. See if I care. What do you want? Oh, whoops. Hydrocarbons from the deep earth. And it was, the name of the thing was Eureka Alert.
Surprisingly high up in Earth's mantle.
There it is. Hopefully it's this one. There we go.
Okay.
A computer modeling study published in the journal. No, I know. What I'm saying is they haven't dug in and found this, which is what he seemed to be presenting it as. Published in the Journal of Proceedings of the National Academy of Science, shows that a deep earth pressure and temperature longer than hydrocarbons may be formed from the simplest one, the methane molecule. Hydrocarbon molecules are the main building blocks of crude oil and natural gas, and determining their thermochemical properties is important to understand carbon reservoirs and fluxes in the earth. Geologists and geochemists believe that nearly all of the hydrocarbons in commercially produced crude oil and natural gas are formed by the decomposition of the remains of living organisms buried under layers of sediment in the Earth's crust, a region that extends 5 to 10 miles below the Earth's surface.
So I will point out 5 to 10 miles is nowhere near the core or deep in the mantle.
Yeah.
Crust. That's Dapper crust stuff.
Also, like I said when we started, and this is, I think, possibly a confirmed prediction, the idea that there might be some hydrocarbon production by abiotic means somewhere on Earth, not really super controversial. The question is it happening at an economically significant scale?
Yeah, we drink for that.
So, yeah. And the answer is no, there's no evidence that it is.
But abiogenic hydrocarbons of purely chemical deep crustal or mantle origin could occur in some geologic settings, which nobody is disputing, such as rifts or subduction zones, said some guy, professor of chemistry at the physics at UC Davis and senior author on the study. Quote, our simulation study shows that methane molecules can combine to form larger hydrocarbon molecules when exposed to a very high temperature and pressures of the Earth's upper mantle. We don't say that higher hydrocarbons actually occur under the realistic dirty Earth mantle conditions, but the pressures and temperature are right, she said. When I said
so they don't even actually agree with his conclusion.
Correct.
Amazing.
Yes.
In the next paragraph down from what he was reading. Yes, correct.
Awesome. That's some like young Earth creationist level source uses right there.
We drink for the cherry pick.
Yeah.
Yes.
So this is actually a common tactic that young Earth creationists do, which is they'll cite from the first paragraph or even the first sentence of the abstract. Or they'll start from like the very beginning of the conclusion. And the thing about those areas is that they're usually not giving you the actual conclusion of the paper, right? They're giving you, setting up the problem, or telling you what preliminary results might suggest under a naive view.
Yes.
So that's what's happening here, is you're just dishonestly using the source. The source has the words that you're citing, sure, but is that what the paper actually says? It's like, I actually did a video which is currently available for early access, but won't be coming out for a while. But I went through the Bible and I found like 20 verses that said things like, there is no God, there is no truth, there is no salvation. Should I then say that the Bible is an atheist and like solipsistic book or something? No, it's obviously not. I'm cherry picking. Every single one of those verses goes on to say something like, except for the God of Israel. Sorry.
Dapper's dying. Could you stop that?
Yeah.
Thanks.
No.
Damn it.
We don't need more fossil fuels.
Yeah, cut it out.
Ah.
I like how Landon is
like-
just slowly eking his way out of camera. He's like, I'm leaving. I don't want to be here anymore. Get me
Can you
out.
blame him?
No,
Sorry, Trademark Canada.
it's okay. I'm doing the same. Drink for Trademark Canada. Landon, bingo. All right. Yeah, no, it's a dishonest presentation of the information and a dishonest presentation of what the scientific journal that they're citing actually says, whether it's a journal or whether it's a retelling. There was a question from the chat for Landon, and Al was asking, can we get from Landon whether stimulation is a word that's used?
Stimulation.
Yeah, that's what he said.
Dapper, do you?
As far as I know, that's not a word. If it's a word, I'm unaware of it.
Stimulation. Dictionary of American Slang.
Ah.
A low IQ but compelling way to say stimulation.
There you go. That seems about right, yeah.
This is what happens when you listen too much Ken Hovind.
Oh, goodness.
Allegedly.
I didn't actually intend to dunk on this person this much, but whoops.
Was not on the main.
They're making it too easy.
Jump forward, 2017. hydrocarbons form surprisingly high up in the Earth's mantle. Now, most textbook teachers.
The paper you were just
High up.
reading that surmised this said that we're not saying that this actually happens on Earth. This is just what we were able to create using temperatures and pressures that do exist on Earth.
In a simulation
Yes.
Right.
on a computer.
Bro. Why you lying? Wait, I have a thing.
And
for
the
this.
same paper said this probably doesn't apply to the real world because the real world Earth isn't like
Real
homogeneous
world Earth
enough.
is dirty.
Yeah.
You lie! You lie!
Love
that
Zim.
hydrocarbons in natural gas and oil
Zim, go
deposits
away.
form from organic remains of long-dead organisms.
Zim doesn't leave.
Even the term fossil
I don't know
fuel
why.
brings to mind prehistoric plants and animals that lived millions of years ago.
Bro, you are not allowed to complain about other people using consistent rhetoric when you're going out of your way to utilize rhetoric to try to make your point without actually presenting an argument.
Yes. Yes.
But Russian geologists and chemists have long championed the idea that abiogenic hydrocarbons also occur.
Yes.
And they do. There is a lower limit, PT limit, of deep hydrocarbon synthesis by calcium carbonate aqueous reduction.
That was a lot of big words.
What are they? Hydrocarbon synthesis by calcium carbonate aqueous reduction. So
I'm trying to think about what that.
So you're doing reduction reactions on calcium carbonate underwater, deep under the mantle, or deep under the surface of the Earth, at least.
Well, by simulation,
Right.
I guess.
A simulation where the authors have said, yeah, but this doesn't apply to the real world.
Right.
It's always fun
I
when your own people are like.
I feel like we
"Nah,
just got a
bro."
bunch of word salad thrown at us, and I'm not I'm not sure if I just got hit in the head with a cabbage.
Well,
I'm not a chemist,
Enough
so-
of a chemist to say for certain.
Okay, we don't have a chemist. Oh, interestingly enough, neither is the guy talking to us. Also not a
True.
chemist. So are we going to citation needed this one a little? I mean, he is providing a citation. We're just not convinced that we don't trust the person presenting the information anymore, I think.
What does the abstract of the citation say?
The deep abiogenic synthesis of hydrocarbons is possible under the conditions of the asthenosphere. We have
Yes,
found that this process can also occur under the mineral and thermobaric conditions of subducting slabs. We have investigated the abiogenic synthesis of hydrocarbon systems at pressures of 2.0 to 2.6 GPa and temperatures of 250 to 600 degrees Celsius.
I think you said 2.2 to 2.6.
2.2 to 6.6.
Yeah. Okay.
The determination lower thermobaric limit of the reaction at 280 to 300 degrees Celsius and 2 to 3 GPa corresponds to a depth of 70 to 80 kilometers during cold subduction. The hydrocarbon fluid formed in the slab can migrate upwards through the network of faults and fractures to form petroleum deposits.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're at the nobody's refuting that you could get fuel in an abiogenic fashion. It's just not consistent. It's not consistent or at a rate that's viable for consumption. Is that right? Does that sound right? I think that sounds right.
So
It
it's,
could- yeah, it
it's
could-
not only that it wouldn't be at a significant rate, it's also that it wouldn't be under the real Earth conditions, because they also point out that this does not really apply to like the Earth as it exists, where it's not like sufficiently homogeneous.
Yeah, this is a different abstract. This is the lower PT limit of deep hydrocarbon synthesis by CaCO3 aqueous reduction. So like we're jumping around to a lot of different stuff that is semi, like the only thing that's tying these things together is that fuel. arguably.
Deep hydrocarbons synthesis is what they're talking about.
Right, but they're also talking about that they're not that deep. Right, so the video's jumping around, I think is what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
All you need is subducting limestone.
That is not all you need. I just read this abstract. That is not all you need.
Which is a rock.
A rock.
Not a fossil
You know what?
fuel.
He did get that right. It is a rock.
Yes, he got
Limestone
that
is
right.
a rock.
It's not citrus.
Interestingly enough,
get
most
hydrogen.
or a large amount of rock
The
of
deep-
limestone is a rock that technically is itself a fossil, but that's quibbling.
Abiogenic synthesis of hydrocarbons is possible under the conditions of the asthenosphere. That's deep in the earth.
Stop saying
We have
deep.
found that this process can also occur under the mineral and thermobaric conditions of subducting slabs. As
That's the thing
alluded
I
to
read, but
earlier.
he's skipping stuff.
We have investigated the abiogenic synthesis of hydrocarbon systems at pressures of 2 to 6.6 gigapascals and temperatures of 250 to 600 degrees C. The determined lower thermobaric limit of the reaction, 280 to 300 degrees C and 2 to 3 gigapascals, corresponds to a depth of 70 to 80 kilometers.
He's just reading the abstract. That's the thing I just did. TD Lane also said, no, it isn't. Hi, TD Lane. Literally, it's the uppermost level of the mantle. That's what he said.
During cold
I mean,
subduction.
considering how big the Earth is, this is not deep into the core.
Right.
This is at the pond scum at the top of the.
Pond scum.
The hydrocarbon fluid formed in the slab can migrate upwards through a network of faults and fractures to form petroleum deposits that are captured in sedimentary anticlines, just like we know and have known.
I was
for
waiting for the
5
next word.
decades.
He's arguing something that nobody's arguing about. I don't get it.
So the facts are in. Rewriting the textbook on fossil fuels. New technologies help unravel nature's methane recipes, and they're showing that methane plus calcium carbonate or limestone equals fossil fuels. Can you believe this? And it's
No. I can believe is that you found a paper that said that under ideal conditions that do not apply in the real world, this would be possible. Which, yeah, okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
That
and
does
their
not mean that the
simulations
majority.
agree with agree this paper.
Yeah, and the thing is, like I said at the very beginning, that there are abiogenic pathways to get to hydrocarbons has never well, I can't say never, is not currently controversial.
Right. The thing
Like-
is like that you're making a really far jump between, hey, this has been shown to work under these specific conditions in a simulation, to this is what's happening in the Middle East and they're just growing oil indefinitely.
Right?
It's a big
No.
big leap.
They're not.
Does that mean the Middle East has unlocked this technology and we just don't have it? That they got from Russia,
Yeah,
I guess?
they got to that point in the civilization tech tree.
I mean, that was definitely not one of the problems that Russia nor Germany has ever had during a war, is running out of fuel supplies. That's never happened.
Never once.
It's not on the mainstream media. No one is talking about it because fossil fuels, oil, gas, all of it, coal,
Oh,
are abiogenically produced, meaning
All of it. All of the fuel you've ever used.
All of it.
Abiogenic. Except for the stuff that he said was microbes. Not including that stuff, I guess.
don't worry about
Yeah.
that. Don't worry about that.
But that doesn't say why. That he said that none of this is on the mainstream media and nobody's talking about it because it's abiogenic. Why would that be a reason why nobody would talk about it? That doesn't make any fucking sense.
Yes.
That's not a reason.
Yeah, the Quo Bono test doesn't really pass, right? So, like, for there to be a conspiracy, you have to have someone who's going to be the beneficiary, right? Like, people don't make a conspiracy that
who
doesn't benefit them.
benefits? Right.
Now, saying who benefits and then finding an answer is not sufficient to say that there is a conspiracy, which is also important, right? But for there to be one, you have to have a beneficiary. And so let's say it is the case that oil reserves just fill back up because of abiogenic fossil fuels, and that's just how the world works. Okay, cool. Now what? Who is covering this up?
And why?
Yes.
Why are they covering? Yeah.
As it just said, the reason? Conspiracy.
Right, like there is no whether or not oil and fossil fuels come from like dead dinosaurs or not isn't relevant to whether or not it's damaging and not being used effectively.
Which it is.
It changes nothing. It changes absolutely nothing about our consumption, whether or not the consumption rate is unsustainable. Because you can have a renewable resource and still be using it at an unsustainable rate. Those are different things.
Yeah, a great example would just be hydroelectric, right?
Right.
Okay, so hydroelectric is a very renewable resource. But you build a dam, and if you're using it faster than the dam fills, well, guess what? You're going to run out of your hydroelectric power.
Yes.
Right. So you can have a renewable resource. Whether or not oil is renewable or not, it does not mean, and I mean, we've already all agreed here in the stream that whether it's created by abiogenesis or whether it's created by, not abiogenesis, whether or not it's created, abiotic, or whether it is not abiotic, it changes nothing about whether or not it's renewable at a rate that is viable. So same with eating corn, same with producing meat and cows, same with getting trees. All of these a cow is considered a renewable resource because you can just make another one. So that doesn't mean that you can't eat more meat. This is basic economics of supply and demand, my dude. Why would you cover? There's no reason to cover any of this up because it changes nothing about the problems that people have with oil and fuel consumption. Whatever. Okay. I'm gonna hit play. I'm done my rant.
They're being produced right now. And they're being produced in such a high quantity, they're replenishing the ancient oil reserves we thought we were going to run out of in 1980 to the tune of 10 times the amount.
Citation needed. Take a drink.
Yeah.
That is the ruse. The origins of methane on Earth are proven.
Was it an elaborate ruse?
The global warmists are using it to scare us.
Global warming conspiracies.
Wait. Global warming.
Yeah, take a drink for conspiracy.
Now, so far they've been talking about the oil conspiracy, the hydrocarbon companies conspiracy, but now they threw in global warming.
Yeah. In the last 30 seconds of the video, they throw global warming in there.
And the thing is, okay, so let's say it's true. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Let's say it's true that oil is largely abiotic, right? Okay, and there's enough of it that like no one's running out anytime soon. Sure. Okay, cool. Does that mean that global warming isn't happening? No.
Or suddenly make it not a problem?
Not a problem? Mm-hmm. No. It remains a problem? Oh, okay.
It changes nothing.
Right.
Yeah. So did we drink for the global warming conspiracy?
Yeah, we got to get to 40. We're at 48. We've got 30 seconds left. Chat, do you guys think we're going to break 50? 1 in the chat for yes, 2 in the chat for no. Let's see if we break 50 in the next 30 seconds.
Simply flip the switch and say that we're all saved. We have unlimited resources beneath the earth that, God gave us. And that's a boom.
What? God gave us.
God did it.
Oh.
Boom,
goodness.
knowledge. God did it.
If there's one thing I trust Soviet scientists to do, it's to give me evidence for God.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
Good drink for that.
Oh, no.
And so, that I think people that are concerned about climate change are trying to minimize the amount of carbon we're putting into Earth atmosphere, trying to keep the atmospheres, from becoming more energetic, more extreme. So how would they benefit from this conspiracy against abiotic oil production? How would
I
they?
can tell you how.
Okay.
So it's because if it's an essentially inexhaustible resource, then we don't have to be concerned about how much is used in terms of running out. But like I said earlier, I'm not so concerned about running out as I am concerned about switching to alternate options. Right? So
Yes.
the idea is the global warmists are actually just anti-oil for irrational, completely nonsense reasons, right? Because obviously there's no connection between burning fossil fuels and global warming maybe isn't a thing, or if it is, it's not a big deal. So whatever, who cares about it? So the only reason to cut back on oil use is because we're running out. But if that's impossible, then hey, use all the oil.
I like the idea that abio methane is just God farts. All right, I just want to hear this bit about global warming again because I think we missed half of it because we had to stop partway through. So I'm
Okay.
just going to play this
Please go.
last bit. Yeah.
Okay.
The origins of methane on Earth are proven, and now the global warmists are using it to scare us when they could simply flip the switch and say that we're all saved. We have unlimited resources beneath the earth that, well, God gave us, and that's a boon to knowledge. I hope you got something out of the video.
I'm just taking another drink.
Don't believe everything you hear.
Yeah, good
What?
point.
For the most
Everything
part,
we hear.
it's gobbledygook and nonsense. The opposite of what you know
My
is
goodness.
probably the truth. Join us on the journey.
I like, okay, we get to 50 by this guy debunking himself in the last 5 seconds. Yay!
So could we go over that little last trope again about the boom knowledge thing?
Oh, I'm sorry, you need to hear that again? Do you want me to slow it down?
Yeah.
Let's slow down.
Beneath the earth that, well, God gave us, and that's a boon to knowledge. I hope you got something out of the video. Don't believe everything you hear. Because for the most
I got 50
part,
drinks out of it.
it's gobbledygook and nonsense. The opposite of what you know is probably the truth. Join us on the journey of uncovering the reality of the earth we live on. Subscribe.
How does this suddenly become an argument in favor of the existence of God?
And I don't. And where they just predicted stuff and said, "Don't believe everything you hear," and then because it's probably wrong, but
They legitimately, in the last, 15 seconds of this video, just careened with a really hard right turn into oblivion.
Yeah, that was... My goodness. All right, so one of the things that I think I want to talk about that it didn't directly come up.
Oh, before you go there,
Yeah.
props
Notice the
everybody.
book.
We made it to 50 drinks. Boom, there's a book in the corner. I'm gonna just move us over. Thanks everybody who made it this far through the
notice it
video.
says sacred
Thank you.
geography.
Sacred geography. All right, go ahead, Dapper. What you got for us?
All right, so oil exploration is like an actual professional field, right? With actual professionals, of whom I know more than one, right? The thing is that oil exploration is largely based on this process called basin modeling, where you take a look at the strata, you do absolute dating with radiometric dating to figure out how old things are. You take a look at the fossils that you dig out of core samples, and usually I'm talking about like microfossils, not like big dinosaur bones. Like you take those and you use those as index fossils to figure out how old things are, all in an effort to figure out what the biomes were like in the past, the paleo biomes, paleoclimates, so that you can figure out whether the area that you're in, that you're drilling in, was likely to have contained a biome that would have produced fossil fuels. And then when you find out that the answer is yes, then you can recommend to the oil company that you go ahead and dig. Now, I actually know an oil guy who does this, who does basin modeling, who's about to go do more basin modeling and recommendation for oil extractions and whatnot over in, I think it's like northern Alberta or something, like here in a few months, right? This is
Wow,
this guy's
you mean
job.
the Texas of Canada?
Yeah, this is his bread and butter. He what he does for a living is every few months he gets hired on to do, for a rather large amount of money, some job that's going to last a few months, where he's going to be on field every day for months. And the thing is that if you could just drill virtually anywhere, and if oil wells didn't run dry, he wouldn't need to do that. The very fact that current oil exploration in for-profit companies depends on things like basin modeling, radiometric dating, an understanding of paleoclimatology and ancient biomes, is on its own extremely strong evidence that everything this guy is saying is complete nonsense. Because why would companies do that? Why would companies waste, tens of thousands of dollars Canadian on some guy?
So $2.
Well, okay. And actually, I don't know for certain how much he's being paid, because I'm not going to ask.
Yeah, but you're talking about on the whole. You're not talking about just
this is on the whole. I mean, we're talking
billions.
trillions of dollars. Ultimately, is expended by like the whole oil industry on this kind of thing.
Yep.
Because it works, right?
Yes.
It's because it works. So we know that our ideas about how oil forms and where and what kinds of biomes and whatnot produce it are at least broadly correct, because otherwise basin modeling would not be a reliable way to find new oil wells. And yet it is, as you can ask pretty much anyone in the oil industry. So just the very basic facts on the ground of how the oil industry operates disprove this entire silly notion.
Drink for Dapper rant at the end there.
Well,
Yeah, Dapper Hulk mode.
Dapper Hulk mode. We did have one other thing that we were requested to do, which was take a look here at the rest of this guy's catalog.
Okay.
Yeah,
to see like what it is that they do overall, right? So
well, he's got the Sphinx out here, so that's not off to a good start.
Great start. I'm a fan. Cosmic Patterns and Cycles. So it seems to me that like that's the name of like a playlist.
Thing.
Yeah, sorry. What did I say? Cosmic Patterns and Cycles of Catastrophe. So if we look at their videos, they've got something about a comet, young Dryas impact.
Younger Dryas impact, yeah.
Magnitude 6.4 earthquake hits Northern California. Widespread damage to homes and roads and power. I mean, yeah, that's a thing that happens.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like a conspiracy. That just sounds like
mythical floods.
Oh boy.
Young Earth creationists?
Mythical floods and scientific evidence supporting their occurrence. Atlantis, Noah, Gilgamesh.
Fun.
Okay.
Mammoth poop reveals tree rings in recently eaten willow branches and the exact time of death, spring.
What?
What type of damage would a mile-wide asteroid do to Washington, D.C.? The facts are unimaginable. Frozen mammoths
to be fair, they probably are.
Frozen mammoths in black muck, solar outbursts, volcanic eruptions, and solar activity. World in Peril, Project Nanook.
Two are correlated.
The Crustal Slip Hypothesis, Charles Hapgood, Chan Thomas, CH28. Giant meteor slammed Earth.
Quality nonsense.
I mean, we may have to come back and visit Magnetic Reversal News at another point in time. And hey, maybe we'll get their attention and get a mega debate, like an old school style.
Hey, yeah, we could get one of their presenters or something on here.
Yeah, absolutely. I am 100% down, because there were some things in that video that were not the most nonsense.
Yeah, and I like the fact that they tried to cite papers.
Yeah.
Well, it would help if the papers, supported their position.
That would help,
rather than not.
That's a quibble.
Details, Dapper, details.
I personally want to know why it is that the existence of abiotic hydrocarbons is evidence for God. I'm curious about that one. Like, where's the logical connection there? Yeah. I'm not sure.
I mean, where's the logical connection?
Part of the global warming conspiracy, right? It's
right
against.
There's some leaps. Yeah. We made a couple leaps that I don't think the video was able to demonstrate. So, like, I think we all did agree in the video that, you could have an amount of some sort, which remained unmeasured throughout the video, that was created without biological material. So we did agree with them on that point. But we're now disagreeing on the amount and whether or not that would change anything about global warming or has anything to do with God, because I feel like those were both the reaches that we weren't quite able to buy into near the end there.
Now, I saw that they were doing sort of various news about, like, this volcanic eruption or this earthquake, and we don't know what they do, whether they just say, hey, there's an earthquake here, the volcano is erupting, or they say the volcano is erupting because there's conspiracy of the global warmers to. I don't know I don't know the conclusion when reporting on a fact like that.
Yeah.
And maybe they just bring out interesting facts because they find them interesting, like comments and so forth.
For sure.
But I find the notion that that some people who get involved in conspiracies find it easy to turn these conspiracies into other conspiracies and sort of wrap them all up, right? It's not a case where they say science is not doing as good enough a job in exploring various sources for petroleum product production. As they have to say there's a conspiracy and they're trying to end humanity and global warming, and it never seems to stop.
There was also another claim that was made that I'm not sure we got to. They're hiding this information, which would make everything totally okay because they're trying to destroy humanity, and hiding this information somehow destroys humanity in some way. So using less fossil fuels kills everybody, apparently. And I'm not entirely sure I understand how we got from point A to point B there.
So it is the case, almost certainly right now, that if you were to just cut out all fossil fuel use, that a large fraction of the Earth's human population would die. Simply because it takes a lot of energy to keep this many people alive, and fossil fuels are providing a huge portion of it.
Well, and massive changes like that are generally dangerous from an economic standpoint.
Disruptive.
Right.
Societal.
However,
usually.
It's not the case, which is what most people are advocating, that if we were to transition away from fossil fuels in a sustainable method, that would result in, any measurable amount of increase in human mortality.
Yeah. I mean, that's the idea. The idea is to transfer over in a way that is not only sustainable but beneficial in the long run. That's why it's a long-term plan. If you look at, like, Canadian policies when it comes to combustion engine cars, this is stuff that was proposed back like 2018, 2016, 2012 to say, hey, in a decade we want to phase out these cars so that by 2026 producing combustion engine cars will not be viable and not be legally allowed. That doesn't mean you're getting your cars taken away. It just means that they're no longer going to be accessible over the span of 10 years, where production of that type of vehicle decreases over time, which also allows the company to make whatever necessary changes that they need to make over on their production line to allow the company to still sustain itself through that transition period, meaning you don't lose as many jobs.
Sure.
And no, it's all a communist plot.
Oh, right. Sorry.
Right.
Communist Canada.
If you had a seemingly unexhaustible supply of energy, you could try and make use abiotic processes to
Mhm.
produce petroleum products. It'd be very inefficient, I believe, and very expensive. But if you had so much energy you could toss, let's say you had nuclear or fusion energy up the wazoo, you could go through and very expensively produce petroleum products. Um, but I think if you want to assume that there's more that you don't need to cut back on petroleum products, you can just burn it as you want because supposedly the earth keeps regenerating it magically.
Right.
Then then that would be an argument, I guess, for the petroleum industry rather than against it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I'm a little bit confused on what the conspiracy itself was actually supposed to be.
I think I
Right?
got it.
Yeah, go.
So I think the idea is that environmentalists broadly, and specifically people who are concerned about global warming, are actually irrationally anti-petroleum. They don't actually care about whether or not there are any environmental or human health
Why?
impacts.
Why would anybody like take this inanimate thing that doesn't generally affect their real life directly personally?
Chesh, you're forgetting the part where I said irrationally. We don't have to worry about it because it's irrational, so just don't worry about it.
Yeah, but
There's no reason. It's
just
just
because
irrational.
you say it's irrational doesn't mean you don't doesn't. Okay, fine, whatever.
No, it's
Fine.
irrational. Just don't worry about it.
Uh,
So they just irrationally hate petroleum for no reason at all. Which, I mean, weird, but okay. So they've created a twin
Got some free time on their
hoax.
hands.
They've created the global warming hoax as well as the non-renewability of fossil fuels hoax. Now, he's leaving aside the global warming hoax because everyone already knows it's just a hoax, right?
Yeah.
But he wants to tackle the non-renewability hoax.
Oh.
So he's pointing out like, yeah, if it's abiotic, you don't even have to worry about it. Just
It doesn't, but the thing is that it doesn't matter if it's abiotic. Even if it is biotic, that doesn't make it non-renewable. That's not what makes something non-renewable.
Are you trying to use logic?
Shit.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck. All right. We're done. Get me out. Can we be done with this? I hate this. All right. So, I guess we're going to have to talk
I
about
think
this.
that's where they say, well, there's your problem.
Yeah, shit. I'm gonna take my woman logic and go home. All right, so I guess we're gonna have to come back and visit magnetic reversal news
Yes.
again sometime. We have another
Yeah.
one that Landon has proposed to us to look at, but it is a 30-minute video, so we're gonna have to pause a lot less if we're gonna cover that one.
Yes.
We'll
see. I mean, I assume if you have watched it a bit, do you think it's worth?
Oh yeah, it'll definitely be a good drinking game. That's for sure.
Do you want to give people hints as to what the
Yeah,
general
go for
subject
it.
is?
Yeah, do it, Landon.
I forget.
Landon
I forgot
doesn't
which
even
one.
remember the damn video he
No,
sent me.
no. I'll get it. I'll get it here in a moment. I will. Which one? I sent it. I put it in.
You put it way before in our unnamed tavern text. It's called Rock Softening Liquid Impossible Engineering.
Oh yes. This is the thing about that obelisks weren't like carved from stone with stone tools. They have this magic this plant-based liquid that turns stone into liquid. You probably don't know that, but in your history.
I mean, Dapper's the history buff. Dapper's like, no. Dapper's like, nah, bro. All right.
He's not having it.
We'll look at that one. Maybe we'll come back to magnetic news. We'll look to scheduling that one soon. It'll either be late this month or depending on everybody's schedules, or it'll be next month. See what we get. Join us on Friday for Pele updates. Join us on Saturday for both Dapper and Landon coming back for the Unnamed Tavern and World News. We've got a good number of things on the chopping block for that one.
There might even be some US-based craziness that we might
this time. As well as join me tomorrow for some art over on Twitch, or if you're a member, you will get access to that as well on YouTube itself. Otherwise, you're going to be a little bit late, where we will actually be doing Landon art, because Landon's got a pet Pokemon that he's going to get.
Oh, and which one is it? That which one day?
That's tomorrow.
Oh, excellent.
Yes.
And of course, so do people think that there will be a selected house speaker by our Saturday time?
I'm gonna guess no, since it's only 2 days and they're voting. From what I heard last, they were looking at taking a break.
What does the chat think?
Chat, yeah. What do you think? Yes, no. 1 in the chat for yes. You think they'll have selected somebody by Saturday. 2 in the chat for no. They won't have selected anybody for the house speaker for the states.
And 3 if you like turtles.
3 if you like turtles. There's a ton going on this channel, so consider subscribing to keep an eye out for whatever the hell is going on, because there's a shitload, and most of the stuff is actually already scheduled, whether or not it's showing. So keep an eye out for all that stuff. I'm on live for sure on Tuesdays and for sure on Fridays, but most of the time we're also scheduled for other stuff. We got a whole lot of 2s. That's a lot of 2s.
So we'll see. Now, of course, I will point out that predictions sometimes have a way of going, because Manya and myself, and I think Chesh as well, thought that Pele would be doing something different than she's doing now. So
I definitely was like big boom, and was absolutely wrong.
So
if you become a member, feel free to join us in the Discord as well. If you are a Patreon, although you will not get access to the live stream on YouTube, it is still accessible for anybody if you want to join me on Twitch. But if you don't want that, you will get access to the replay and the videos that will come out of that. You will get early access for that. There are 4 current early access videos. I believe there might be 5 that are available for Patreon. So check the posting. If you can't see them yet, they'll be posted like in the next 20 minutes or so. So they're already showing in the Discord if you're in there. If you're not in there and you're only on Patreon and you haven't joined the Discord or whatever, the posting should be coming up as soon as I'm done with this. But yeah, that looks like a whole lot of 2s for Saturday.
Yes,
right,
a couple of 3s, but 2s are definitely in the lead.
Dapper, what you got going on? Dapper, we've been abandoned.
He's just
sorry.
He's just shaking his head.
My bad.
He was
tomorrow I have a premiere at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. I also have a show later than that, but I don't honestly remember exactly when, on Jackson Wheat's channel, where we will be talking to a creationist together. I don't really know who this creationist is, but he reached out to Jackson, and Jackson and I like to do that as sort of a team venture. We like to both jump in because we both have different strengths and whatnot when it comes to doing that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So Saturday, so I normally have a thing on Saturday. I don't know what it's going to be. It might actually just be a re-upload of the chat that I have with the creationist on Jackson Wheat. But then after that, I will also be here on your channel.
Yeah. Oh, links are in the description down below. Landon, you got anything special you're working on besides hanging out with me and Dapper all week?
Yes. In fact, if you can put the URL of my Discord server, Our Favorite Universe.
Where'd you send me that?
It's in our internal chat. I can send it to you different.
Yeah. Send it to me on Discord. That's the easiest way to do it.
Okay. Let me do that. One moment, please.
I've tried to do it, but I've tried to do it before, but I don't have access to because I'm in that Discord. I just don't have access to share the link.
Okay. One moment, please, while I do this thing. You can. But while I'm doing this, please consider subscribing to these really fine folks' channels. Click the like button. That helps them, and I appreciate it when you do that. And Chesh, here is the link.
Yeah, like and share the video if you learned something.
And here's the link.
There you
So
go.
if you click on that, I'll notice you, and I'll elevate you to the science fan member. There in that channel, there's a whole big thing about science, a lot of interesting science stuff, a lot of history of interesting science stuff. There's some history stuff. There's some food stuff. There's some stuff relating to medical. And of course, a lot of political stuff fun too. So enjoy that as you may.
All right. We'll see you guys next time, and do consider stopping by on Friday and Saturday, because after that, there's not going to be Manya for a little while. She's heading out.
Yeah, she's apparently is going to be. She's finished booping neutron stars, so I wonder what she's going to be booping black holes.
I think so. I think that's what
That's
she's
even
moving
more
on to.
dangerous.
Oh yeah.
Manya is a pretty gutsy lady, so
Oh, pretty
Woman
gutsy
of
gibbon.
for-
Ah! Erica's great. All right, we're gonna head on out of here. Thank you everybody so much for joining us today. I hope you have fun. I
Thank
hope you
you.
learned something, and we'll
Bye,
see
all.
you guys tomorrow, Friday, and
Bye.
Saturday. Have a good night, everybody. Links in the description down below. Bye.